Hello everyone, I'm Jesse from Core Concept Entertainment, and today we're going to be doing a short video on the Rollout developer tools. It's a tutorial on how to add some new content to Rollout using these tools, and they come with the game, so you will have them if you purchase the game. We're going to go ahead and dive right in and create a little mod that adds a new piece of equipment that the crew can use, and when equipped it's going to boost their speed. It'll be a cybernetic enhancement. So like I said, we're going to dive right in and we're going to create a project. So we're going to create a new folder and we'll call this tutorial module. And we're going to select that folder for our project to live in. Now the dev tools are going to set it up automatically for us. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click on items. We're going to create a new item. And this is going to be our tutorial item cybernetic speed, and that's going to open up the common properties here. So it's created the item in our hierarchy here, and you can see our identifier is bound here. The lexicon entry, you can hover over any of these items in the editor and it'll tell you what it is. Anything in bold is required. Validation will fail if you don't have them, so make sure you fill those out. Lexicon entry is kind of the human readable name, so we're going to populate that with cybernetic enhancement speed. And we're going to pick from downloads. I have an icon from gameicons.net. I'll put that link in the description. Fantastic resource for prototyping, and just amazing thank you to those guys for putting that together. So I'm going to link that to both the UI sprite and the world sprite. The DevTools is only going to reference, like it's going to use a reference. It's not going to actually copy it twice. All of the default values here are fine. The pivot point is the center point of the sprite. You can adjust that as you need to. Pixels per unit is calculated based on the image, but you can change that if you need to. Animated is for a different tutorial. We'll go into that specifically. And show attributes is the visual representation of this pivot point here. Okay, so we've referenced that for the UI sprite and the world sprite. And as far as common properties for an item, that's all you need. So we're going to close that. And what we're going to do is we want this item to be craftable. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll check the craftable checkbox here on the side. And we have a new section of properties for crafting. Now the way crafting works in Rollout, you are going to need to specify what building it's crafted at. So we're going to say building Electronics Lab, which is a building in the core game itself. So we're just going to tack onto that. And we're going to say that it takes 60 seconds in real time to make one of these. And it's going to need some microchips, some metal, and some power. And we'll say that it takes 4 microchips, 3 metal, and 50 power. Okay, so it's basic properties for crafting. What does it take to craft it? How long does it take? How many do you get? And what building? Pretty straightforward. That's it for crafting. That's set and done, so we can just collapse that. The last thing that we're going to need to do is to actually make it equippable. So we have a section down here that is equippable, and we just check that. We get our equippable properties, and we're going to expand that. There's only 3 fields in here. Slot is where it's going to go. So we're just going to make this a head slot item. I suppose for speed, legs might make more sense, but for the image, we're just going to go with a head slot cybernetic enhancement. These required property keys are what you can do to limit what classes of crew member can equip the item. Basically, they need that property key on them in order to equip this. Otherwise, the game will just tell you, no, they can't equip that item. We're going to leave it blank. Anybody can equip cybernetics for our intents and purposes. I will go into some more of this stuff in a later tutorial once we have added a little bit more content as we go. But for now, we're going to keep it relatively simple. However, in order to make the item do something when it's equipped, we are going to need to dive into Lua just a little tiny bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this button to create a new Lua file. And we're going to call it cyber speed, because why not? And you notice these icons change. Now open has become delete and new has become edit. And it automatically sets up the file for us. If we click the edit, it'll open up the Lua editor in the DevTools, and you'll notice that it has pre-populated some of the contents of the file. And at the top, it will put some of the static objects you have access to. And depending on where you create the Lua script from, so if you create it on a calamity or a weather effect, some of the entry point functions for the game are a little bit different. And when I say entry point functions, I mean these functions are called by the game so that your script actually gets used. All we need to do is, on equipped, we want to boost the crew member's speed. Now we're given a reference to the crew member that equipped it, so all we have to do is type crew member dot set speed, which is one of the methods that we have access to. And what we want to do is we want to dot get base speed. We want to get their current speed and add 1 to it, just for simplicity. And we're going to actually copy that, and when they unequip it, we're going to get their current speed and subtract 1. Now, set speed actually modifies base speed, so that's why we're subtracting rather than just setting it back to get base speed. Now what we're going to do is we're going to check it for syntax errors. It says validation succeeded, so we have no errors, and we're going to click save. Save successful down at the bottom here, and we can close the Lua editor. That's pretty much it. We've created our item. Just to reiterate, we have our lexicon entry, we have our UI sprite, we have our world sprite. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to give an initial quantity of 1, just so that when it's in the game, we can very easily show off that it works. So we're going to collapse that. Crafting, everything looks set properly. So collapse that, and equippable. So we're going to go ahead and save. We're going to validate the project. We're going to see again down here, validation succeeded, which the DevTools will just check and make sure all of your files exist, nothing got deleted, you've filled in everything that you need, and it's ready for export. Double check our module settings, our metadata, and we did not set that, so we'll call this tutorial module, and we'll set a version of 1. Now we're ready for export. So we're going to click export. Now I've been working on the rollout core, so the DevTools have remembered where I am, but you're going to want to put this in the modules folder under the game itself, and it comes up with the name based on what you called the project. So we're just going to leave it as default, and we'll call it tutorial module. Click save, and it says export succeeded. Now we're going to flip over to the game, and we're going to hit play. And we're going to wait for the intro to play, and what we're going to do is we're just going to create a new game. Everything can be default, and we're just going to see that the item now exists. So as soon as the game loads, we'll just go through the basics of creating the new game. It's just initializing, it's loading in the core, it's loading everything in. We'll click new game. Everything's fine. We'll say random, and we got meteor impact as a calamity. So I'm just going to continue that, and we find ourselves in a desert. So I'm going to take this researcher here. And you notice we have a cybernetic enhancement speed in our equipment. It's already in the game. It's there. We have everything. Now I'm just going to move this guy around a little bit so you can see his speed. And we're going to open his inventory. Don't mind the temporary textures. We're working on it. They'll all get filled in. We're going to right click on the cybernetic enhancement that we have here. We're going to select equip, and it has been equipped. Now you can see his movement speed is quite a bit faster. And that's all there is to it. In a matter of minutes, we've added a new item, we've registered it into the game, we've taken care of brand new functionality, and that's, like I said, that's all there is to it. So I'm going to be releasing a few more of these tutorials. We're going to go into a little bit more of the functionality, some more of these additional properties here. We'll add some calamities, some tile sets, weather effects. We're going to do a tutorial for just about each item that you can add, but we're going to keep them relatively modular so that you can just watch exactly what you need. Please leave any comments that you have, any suggestions to make these tutorials a little better down below, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.